Nation, welcome in to a special edition of Guru's Podcast, a playoff edition. Got my man here, feeling the good vibes. Josh Coma, what is up, my man?
What is up? So excited for the playoffs this week. I hope you guys are too out there.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We're going to get right into it here. No need for BS, fluff, all that. That's out of here. Let's get this thing going. All right.
Let's do it.
We've got the quarterback position to start this thing off with, the position that it can be tricky, generally scores the most points, but it can be tricky and frustrating, especially when you have two good QBs. But luckily, those of you who managed to get Patrick Mahomes don't have that problem, because he's a must-start week in and week out.
Absolutely. No question about it. There's these guys like Mahomes and Breeze. Even though Breeze has been struggling lately, you're still going to play Breeze. You got your Matt Ryans, who's been solid all year. All those guys, you got your must-starts. But I think we should definitely dive into some guys that maybe aren't must-starts. Maybe some guys that you might find on the waiver wire, or you might be thinking about, don't know if you want to start him or not or whatever. One guy that I've been really intrigued by is Josh Allen, and I can't believe I'm even saying this because he's a Buffalo Bill.
I know. Before the season, we thought he was toast. Like we did our rookie rundown episode early in the year. I remember Josh Allen, no one's gonna ever touch him. But look at him now; he's looking pretty solid.
That's right. And I mean, to follow up the performance of the great Nathan Peterman has got to be a tough job.
Tough act to follow there, man.
But Josh Allen, so far, he's looked really, really good. He's looked above and beyond what I know I thought about him, especially his running game. I know I didn't get to really watch him much in college, but I had no idea he had wheels like that. I mean, this guy, over the last 3 games, he's had over 300 rushing yards, and he's had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's really good for a quarterback, right? So he's a very intriguing option.
Oh, man, he's been incredible.
I know.
I can't believe I'm saying it just because I figured he would be, just waiver wire fodder, just, like a Case Keenum, Nick Mullen, just somebody you wouldn't even consider. But, I mean, the way he's looking, I'm starting to think, like you said, could be worth a start, especially if your QB has a rough matchup.
Right, and which mine do. I have Mitch Trubisky and I have Kirk Cousins. And, I don't know if I really trust either one of them. Kirk Cousins has been very mediocre as of lately, and that's putting it lightly. He's been very disappointing to myself, and I'm sure those of you out there that also have him. And Mr. Trubisky, we saw last week how the injury is still affecting him. I don't know if I'm ready to start him yet this week. A guy like Josh Allen, home against Detroit, who, according to ESPN, is 18th against quarterbacks. That's a really tasty matchup, and one that I'm thinking very hard about, to be honest with you.
I got you. The only reason I'm a little leery about Josh Allen is because of the way the Bills' offense, I still don't trust it. They still don't really have any receivers to speak of. The running game's weak. He's basically the running back. I mean, it's just he's going to take a beating at some point. It's just, I hope he can keep it going, but wow, it's just he's just having to do so much, carry so much of the load. And I feel like the Detroit game is going to be a low-scoring, ugly game. Matt Patricia trying to change the identity there in Detroit. Matt Stafford's had some ugly stats this year. Stay far away from him for fantasy. He's terrible this year. I mean, and maybe he's battling an injury or something, but man, they haven't used him well at all. But anyway, back to Allen. I just think it's just going to be one of those just grinded out, low-scoring, ugly type games. And while that Chicago Green Bay game could also be a similar script, I just feel like with Aaron Rodgers there, the Bears defense could bend a little bit, and enough to where Trubisky will have to do something. And I think it was just, his first game off injury in prime time, a lot of pressure facing the LA Rams. But he's been good in practice. He's been practicing this whole week, so it's looking like he's back healthy. So I think Trubisky could be a solid start. And he can run as well. He's got some games where he's gotten rushing touchdowns, rushing yards. So I'd feel pretty decent about Trubisky this week.
Definitely. I will say future opponents, the next 2 opponents for Josh Allen will be at New England and Miami. So, for your future playoffs, in case you make it to the next round or 2, at New England could be a come from behind kind of thing where Brady takes him up early. He's got to throw. And he might get you some points there, and then Miami's a good matchup because Miami's defense really isn't all that well. So.
Yeah, they got to give some hope for Kirk Cousins this week. Although after last week's debacle, it would be hard for me to trust Kirk again. I mean, he's he's just way too inconsistent for my liking. It just seems like on any given week he can just self-destruct and man, I don't know. I'd almost at this point feel more comfortable with Allen just because of the ceiling with the rushing. Like he just has such a high ceiling there.
I agree.
And with Kirk, it's just it's a dumpster fire. And then with even Aaron Rodgers used to be like the top dog among QBs, the alpha male, like Pat Mahomes is right now. Especially for fantasy purposes, because he would throw so many touchdowns and have so many weapons. But now the way it's looking in Green Bay, other than Davante Adams, there's really not that much there. And going at Chicago with the O-line struggling, I just think Khalil Mack's going to sack the you-know-what out of Rodgers. I honestly wouldn't be feeling too hot about playing him this week.
You know why Rodgers hasn't been very Rodgers-esque this year? It's because this is the first year that I've been able to have him in one of my leagues. And I knew
you put the hex on him.
I knew he was going to have a bad year, but it is what it is. I mean, he's still been good. He just hasn't been Aaron Rodgers. But another quarterback I want to talk about, and it actually pains me to say this, because I personally don't like Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott has been pretty decent this year, and he's been really good since he's gotten Amari Cooper. And Zeke now has been running all over the place, running wild. And so he's been a lot better the last couple of weeks.
For sure.
And he's playing at Indianapolis this week, which is actually a pretty rough matchup, to be honest with you. They're ranked 13th against quarterbacks.
Not too bad, yeah.
It's
he
because
can
of the way
score on
they've
him.
been playing lately. They've been playing really, really well lately.
Yeah, pushing for that wild card. They've been stepping up their game for sure.
Right. But if you can get past this week, maybe with another quarterback, Dak's next two opponents are going to be Tampa Bay and the Giants. Those are two really, really good matchups. So he might be an option for those next 2 weeks if you play that deep into the playoffs.
Right, and if you're in a really deep league, Dak might be a guy you just have to go with just because he's in a pretty good groove right now. Amari Cooper, that acquisition's really paid off. It's really opened things up for Zeke and as well as Dak. The offense has just taken off. Yeah, Zeke's rock solid, must start. Doesn't matter who they're playing.
That's right.
But I mean, yeah, Dak's looking pretty solid. I'm not a huge fan of Dak either, but the numbers don't lie. The guy's really turning the season around, and I feel like if you're in a bind, if you have a QB that's banged up or gets hurt, I mean, Dak's a good backup, and if you're in a deeper league, could even be started. I mean, and we also have, before we get off of quarterbacks, we also have some news here that just broke today, I believe. Carson Wentz likely out for the year. I believe he has a back injury. Yeah, he was having a decent year, not as good as his 2017 campaign, but yeah, they tried to rush him back from the torn ACL, just wasn't quite ready, just was kind of rusty all year. His weapons were just never really panned out. Jeffrey was a bust, as I predicted. I'm glad I got that pick right. Everyone was giving
when he came back, he was playing well for the first couple
I was a little worried. I was like, man, he's trying to prove me wrong. But as the season went on, I was like, yep, I did not have a good gut feeling about that dude. He was in decline, and when I see a decline, it usually ends up.
What's really weird about that situation is that ever since they acquired Golden Tate, he really hasn't been a factor at all.
And then, Golden Tate wasn't really a factor. Aguilar was a bust. The whole offense crapped out.
And that's what I don't understand. It's not like Golden Tate was the reason why Jeffrey, it's not like he stole the target. Like, Golden Tate hasn't done anything either. So I don't know what happened there. I personally think when it comes to Carson Wentz that I don't think his injury is really all that bad. Like, I don't think it's...
Yeah, their season's winding down. They still have a chance. But, I mean, after that Dallas loss, they might just be like, it's time to just preserve his long-term health. Right. Another guy battling injuries, Cam Newton, should be okay, but they don't really know. His shoulder's been acting up, so I'd be a little cautious about him. Jared Goff's had some really rough games the past 2 weeks, but I'd still put him in must-start territory. The offense is too good to sit him. He's back at home. Got to go with him. Jameis Winston, somebody I'm fading. He's coming back to earth. I'd sit him. He's got some tough matchups down the stretch. Mm-hmm. Then a guy, I mean, he's just one of these ones he just seems he's kind of like Josh Allen, a rookie, gets the rushing. Lamar Jackson, not a great passer, but if you're in a deep league in a bind, could be somebody to consider.
Well, I actually heard today Lamar might not play this Sunday. That it might be
banged up.
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that's the thing with those rushing QBs. Yeah, they're risky because of that. They if they get injured, then they could cost you a week's worth of QB production. So just be wary of that when starting those guys. So if you have your stud Mahomes, Breeze, Luck, Goff, Ryan, the guys that have done it all year, keep rolling with them. They should deliver for you. I don't think they'll disappoint. I mean, obviously, there's no guarantees in fantasy, but I'd feel pretty confident about those guys.
Right, absolutely.
So moving on here to running backs, we had some interesting developments this week. Saquon and Zeke went off as expected, but Todd Gurley kind of slacked off. But I mean, the whole Rams offense was bad, so he should easily bounce back. Again, and he was playing the best defense in the league. So all you guys are getting on Todd Gurley thinking that he's in decline. Get out of here with that crap. That's not in decline. I mean, come on. One off week, he's a human being. I mean, nobody's like a superhuman that's going to go off each and every week. I mean, Saquon seems like he might be part robot or something, but I don't know. He's just on a whole nother level. And only a rookie. I mean, shoot, I just can't imagine people in dynasty leagues how lucky they were to get Saquon. They probably set for the next 5 to 10 years and locked in RB1.
I mean, if you're looking at pure talent, Saquon's probably the best running back in the league already.
All around ability, it looks like. I mean, because he's such a polished receiver as well. Like, it's just...
He's just incredible. He's everything you could want and more in a running back. And when I say and more, I'm talking about his leadership. The kid's already a great leader.
Yeah, he already has more maturity than Odell Beckham, who mysteriously missed last week with a freaking quad injury.
Could miss again.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we get to him when we get to receivers. But let's get to some backfields that aren't so clear. Let's get to some committee backfields, which pain me to talk about, but we've got to talk about them because sometimes those committees, like good things can come out of them. Like last week, well, Pittsburgh's not really a committee, but I mean, James Conner was banged up. Looks like he might be out again. So Jalen Samuels. I mean, people that got Jalen Samuels, he's looking like a good play. And I mean, New England's not that great on defense. Kenyon Drake just got to him last week. So I'm thinking Samuels could have another solid week.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually picked him up in one of my leagues. He did okay. He didn't do too much on the ground, but he did do a lot in the passing game. So if you got him in PPR, he seems like a really good flex player.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Hey, I like Samuels a lot. And then the Chargers backfield up in the air with Melvin Gordon questionable. If he's a no-go, I'm thinking Justin Jackson's a solid flex play. He didn't do too much last week, but Eckler's out too. So, I mean, he's going to get carries by default. I think he could be a flex with RB2 upside, especially against the vulnerable Chiefs defense.
He could. I don't like that he hasn't really done much with his touches. But like you said, he's pretty much going to be the only one if Melvin Gordon indeed doesn't play. So the opportunity is there. The ceiling is definitely there. Just be wary. It could also be a very pass-heavy game, especially if Kansas City gets up early, which they are known to do. Speaking of Kansas City, I'll tell you one guy I really like and am really confident in this week is Damian Williams. We found out today that Spencer Ware is very doubtful for the game. Obviously, Kareem Hunt is, no longer a factor. So now it's the Damian Williams show. And I'll be honest with you, I was thinking about picking up and starting Damian Williams even with Spencer Ware in because he's still getting touches. He's still getting catches in that offense. Now he's going to be the only back if Spencer Ware
Right. He's definitely a good option. I actually just picked him up in my big Twitter versus Instagram matchup against Yahoo's very own Brad Evans. So I'm really hoping Damian can come through, and I think he could. Yeah, Spencer Ware doubtful this week. So it looks like he's not playing. So
he's going to be
another murky backfield. Kareem Hunt's out of the picture. So, and the great offense led by Pat Mahomes. So
I'm very confident in him. Another running back, I don't know if I'd say I'm confident in him, but you can get him in most leagues, is Elijah Mcguire. We found out.
If you're digging deep. Elijah Mcguire. Isaiah Crowell banged up. Probably won't be playing anymore this year.
He's probably not going to play. Elijah Mcguire's going to have the full workload.
Yep, a team like the Jets rebuilding. They're going to look for their young guys. A guy like Crowell, they'll look to shut down. They're out of the picture as far as the playoffs. So they're going to go all in with their young guys.
Now, I will say, temper your expectations. He is playing a Houston defense that is on fire right now.
Right. And he's kind of banged up in himself. So,
he is. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, today too. Like I said, digging deep. If we're digging deep, then,
he's a very good pass-catching running back. There's a good chance they're going to be looking into the flats a lot this week, a lot of check downs. There's a chance for him to have a big week in PPR. When I say big, I mean anywhere from about 12 to 18 points. Don't expect 25. Don't expect anything higher than that. But also, if he plays, I wouldn't expect him to score less than 10 points, to be honest with you. I think
I think because he'll get some volume, so he'll get a pretty stable floor there, I'd say.
He can have anywhere from 5 to 8 catches. very easy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Another guy, not really a PPR guy, but another guy to keep an eye on here if we're digging deep, because it looks like Kerryon Johnson's going to be shut down, unfortunately. One of my favorite breakout candidates, but just unfortunately couldn't stay healthy down the stretch.
He's good, man.
I know, he's so good. I feel like I nailed it with him as my RB2, but man, he's just killing me. Luckily, I picked up Damian. Yeah, but I was so high on him, and he looked like I was going to be right, but it's injuries. I mean, I guess I was somewhat right, but he didn't hold up for the full year, unfortunately. But another Lion back that did really well last week in the second half of the game, kind of took over for the LeGarrette Blount role, and he really filled it in better than Blount himself, was Zach Zenner. Zach Zenner did well, had some nice runs, scored a touchdown, and again, if you're digging deep, if you're in a deep standard league and have a lot of injuries, as you're a Melvin Gordon, James Conner owner, and failed to get the handcuffs, then, I mean, shoot, Zach Zenner's a guy you could dig deep with, because, I mean, it looks like they'll probably give him more carries than Blount, because, like I said, teams that are out of contention are going to want young guys to get more touches, so I just don't see Blount really having much of a role in the future, as he probably won't be on their team next year. So I think they'll go more with Zenner and see what he can do out there.
Yeah, like you said, that game against the Bills could be a very dirty, low-score, grinded-out kind of game. There's a chance he could have close to 20 carries.
Yeah, could. And then, and I'm sure he'll get, because they don't like to throw much anymore in Detroit, so he could get, one of those cheap LeGarrette Blount specials, we call them. But, I mean, with Blount, like we said, kind of fading out there, it looks like Zenner could be more of an option.
I want to talk about that I'm high on this week, and I haven't been high on him all season, and I've been wrong. Ever since he's been back, he's been really good, and that is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook. I watched him play last week, and he looked really, really good.
Yeah, he looked rejuvenated. I have him in one league. I'm glad I kept him stashed because he's looking back healthy.
And the reason why I'm high on him, not just this week, but going forward for the rest of the fantasy playoffs, is because they fired the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that bozo's out of there. Yeah.
The reason why, because I watched an interview last night about it and everything. The offensive coordinator really, really wanted to pass, and the head coach wanted to run. So now that he's gone, there's a chance we could see close to 30 carries this year.
Yeah, they want to get back to that run-first, defense-first identity, and they got away from that. That's why I think the Vikings struggled this year in general. They could still make the playoffs, though, and I think they made the right call there because, I mean, it's just Kirk is not that truly elite QB. We talked about him earlier, and he just didn't deliver, and so I think it could be more the Dalvin Cook show here down the stretch. I like him. Agreed. Moving on to wide receivers here. We've got a lot of interesting stuff here. Davante Adams has been incredible, arguably the top receiver in fantasy. So glad to have him on some of my teams. But at the Bears this week. Got to start him, though, right?
Yeah, you do not bench Davante Adams. I don't care if he's playing Jesus Christ himself in pass. It doesn't matter. You start Davante Adams because no matter who he's played this year, Aaron Rodgers has found a way to get him the ball. Even in the first game against the Bears.
Right, he did well. Yeah, he's caught a touchdown. He's like in every game.
And it was a struggle all game to give him the ball, and then all of a sudden, second half.
Yeah. He'll get there. He's kind of having the kind of year DeAndre Hopkins, I thought, would have. Hopkins has had a good year, but he hadn't quite been that truly elite, dominant number one receiver in fantasy. But Adams has been. I mean, he's just been incredible. He's the one constant in that Green Bay offense.
Absolutely.
So I expect him to do really well. Hopkins, though, I expect to really blow up the next couple of weeks. They're playing the Jets this week, so he's going to, I think, have a huge week. I'm all in with him and Watson. I like Watson a lot this week, too. Good. Another QB option. But yeah, Hopkins, man, I think will do really well. I mean, Demaryius Thomas just hadn't stepped up, and they're saying Kiki could be back this week, could help open things up, kind of take some attention away from Hopkins. I think he could have a really, really big week. I think he's going to blow up. And same with the Pittsburgh receiver there against New England. New England can be tough at times, but I'm all in with AB and Juju, man. Absolutely. I think they're going to go off as usual. Yeah, they're both must-starts. Michael Thomas, Julio, I mean, obviously must-starts. Tyreek Hill and Odell Beckham, though, are usually, elite WR1s, must-starts. Same with T.Y. Hilton. All these guys are great receivers, but they're all kind of banged up. Yeah. However, it's to the point, if you're in the fantasy playoffs, if you're an owner of one of these guys, I'd say you just got to roll with them.
Yeah, you play them if they're playing. It is what it is. Even if they're banged up, you play them if they're playing. Tyreek Hill, from what I heard, there's a chance he could not play. I think that's BS. I think he's going to play.
Right, I think he will too.
And he's still a threat to get you 30-plus points.
Yeah, but all he needs is only a couple deep bombs, and he's back to 20
now,
to 30
on the other side
points.
of the ball from Pittsburgh, we're talking about New England. How about Josh Gordon?
I like Josh Gordon, man. I was really high on him early in the offseason, but when he got in more trouble, it looked like I was like, yeah, I'm staying away from him. Then the Browns released him, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I stayed away. And then New England picks him up. I'm like, well, now I kind of wish I would have taken him. And
he seems to
but
be
it's
better
like
and better each week.
I know he's just developing such a great rapport with Tom Brady. If Brady decides to play another year, which it looks like he will, he hadn't declined too much. I think Josh Gordon will be a great pickup for next season because people will still be leery of him, Otis suspension, this, that. But with the Patriots, he seems to have cleaned up his act and really stepped up, and he's become a favorite of Tom Brady. Probably the best receiver Brady's had since Randy Moss. I mean, so he's looking like the real deal. Not always a big threat in the end zone. I mean, they like to run near the goal line. Of course, they got Gronk, but I still feel like at this point Gordon's a must start, especially if you have him as a flex. He's a great flex, but he could get by as your WR too. He's solid.
He has very, very big play potential, and you gotta love that.
Right, definitely. Yeah, we had talked about Detroit, a guy I'm fading because I'm all in with Gordon. Yep, Kenny Galladay. I'm fading Kenny Galladay the next couple weeks. I don't want him in my fantasy playoff lineups. If you're on an offense that's that dysfunctional at this point, I don't want you. I mean, any Bills receivers, Jets receivers, Lions receivers, please stay off of my roster. I don't care. I'm not touching those guys at this point.
The only Bills receiver I would think about would be Zay Jones, and the only reason
I couldn't dig that deep.
I'm not saying I would start him. I'm saying if I was really, really hurting that receiver, I would think about it. Maybe you got Emmanuel Sanders. Maybe he was your wide receiver one. I don't know why he would have been, but maybe he was. And
if you'd have been really stacked at running back, if you're still in the fantasy play,
or maybe you just got hit with the injury bug all season. Maybe you got unlucky and somehow squeaked in because, like you said, your running backs might have been good. You might have had Mahomes, whatever.
Yeah, Mahomes-Kelsey combo.
Zay Jones has shown that he can get some 20-point games, and that the opportunity is there. The ceiling is there. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying I would pick him up and start him. But if you got a roster spot, you're hurting a wide receiver, why not?
I guess. That's digging really deep, though, man.
I agree.
I don't think I could do that. Yeah, we talked about.
There is somebody that he's only 39% owned out there, so there's a good chance you could probably get him as Curtis. Samuel.
Yeah, the Carolina receiver. Yeah, I'm about to get them. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. They're looking pretty good. Yeah. I mean, the Saints kind of vulnerable at times. Their defense has been better lately, but, I mean, they get thrown on a lot, especially if they get up early. It could be a shootout there. Right. So Samuel's a solid flex, I feel like.
In 5 of his last 6 games, including the last 4, he's had double digits. Now, they haven't been really big double digits. I believe the highest one was 19. But it shows consistency. And it shows that
right. He's doing pretty well. They're getting a good rapport now that Funchess and Olsen are out of the picture.
Right. But temper your expectations a little bit. He does still have DJ Moore there. Like you said, he still has McCaffrey there. That takes away a lot of those targets. So, don't put him in if you're expecting a big play. But if you maybe have a DeAndre Hopkins or a Tyreek Hill and you want somebody that you might get you a few points, maybe look Curtis Samuel.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't mind him, man. Another guy, he's more that big play type of man. I just like what I've been seeing from him, especially with Doug Baldwin banged up. Tyler Lockett, I mean, the numbers don't lie. He's developing into the Seahawks' number one receiver. He's that big play, explosive guy, gets the touchdowns, and I'm starting to think they've got a good matchup. 49ers this week, a pretty good one, I think, for week 16 here. I mean, the Seahawks are just trending in the right direction, y'all, and I think
that defense is coming up.
Yeah, the Chiefs in week 16. I mean, that's juicy matchups for Tyler Lockett. So I mean, I think he's definitely somebody I'm all in on for the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anybody's gonna do it on Seattle, it seems like it's gonna be Tyler Lockett. So.
Yep, I mean, Baldwin just can't seem to get healthy. I'm to the point I would not mess with him.
If I was Seattle, I wouldn't even play him.
He's a trooper. He's tried, but he's just had too many injuries at this point. I'd say it's just time to cut your losses and go all in with Lockett and maybe David Moore or somebody. I mean, Baldwin's just not even helping the team at this point.
So we mentioned Emmanuel Sanders a couple times. I kind of want to see how you feel about Deshaun Hamilton and Tim Patrick. Now, last week, both of them had pretty good games. I believe Deshaun Hamilton had 17. I think Tim Patrick might have had 16 or 17 or 19, somewhere around there. They both had double-digit games. They're both playing Cleveland at home. That's a pretty good matchup for them.
Yeah, for
Cleveland's
sure.
secondary has been a little inconsistent.
Yeah,
this year.
Cleveland's not been too good, but I've got to fade at this point. I've got to fade all Denver wideouts. I'm fading Patrick, fading Hamilton, fading Sutton. Fading all of them. The reason, though, if I had to pick one though, I'd probably go Hamilton because from what I read, he was basically the guy that they kind of pegged to fill in for Sanders, and he had a good week. I mean, Sutton's kind of banged up. He's just hadn't lived up to the hype. Patrick, I didn't even know who he was prior to the injury. I didn't know much about Hamilton either, but I mean, he's looked pretty good. Like I didn't really see much of the game, but I saw like a few things where he's just like, I think he could be that guy. Like, so if I had to pick one, if I'm in a deep league kind of desperate, wouldn't mind Hamilton, but like I said, if you're in like a 12-man league or less, but please fade all Denver wide. It's not worth the headache.
But watch how he does though this week.
Yep, maybe for the fantasy championship he
next
could
week
maybe.
He plays Oakland. Okay,
ooh,
so
another juicy matchup.
If either one of them does well again this week,
definitely keep an eye on those trends, right, for
yep.
sure. Yeah, because a lot of people have their fantasy championships for week 16, and if you do
hopefully
have an unfortunate injury, right, yeah, I'm hoping so, man. Especially in Twitter versus Instagram. Played a winner of.
We actually got a chance to play each other. Possibly.
Yeah, and then we're in our league, the Instagram followers league. We're trying to. We would have 1 and 2 seeds, so we're looking to see if we can. Get there. Shout out to the bot and Hayden for challenging us. So we've got to beat them before we get too big headed.
yeah, probably, just because I said that, probably like 80 points.
We're done. We lost. Eugene.
Right, we'll see.
Yeah, it should be fun, man.
Hopefully, we'll be doing a show next week where we're in the championship again.
Right. We'll wrap this one up here with the tight end position. Not too much to talk about here. Most people that made their fantasy playoffs have a rock solid tight end like a Kelsey, Ertz, Ebron, Kittle. Shout out to Kittle, 210 yards to help me advance last week in a few leagues. Awesome. The dude's a beast, but. If you're not fortunate enough to have one of those guys, a tight end that has really stood out to me is Ian Thomas. Mm-hmm. Just the sheer amount of targets he's gotten. Ever since Greg Olsen went down, he has just been targeted heavily by Cam Newton. He's been like Cam's safety blanket with him not being able to get the ball down the field with his shoulder banged up. It seems like Thomas is taking on a nice role there in Carolina, and if he's available in your league, scoop him up now, especially if you need a tight end.
Yeah, absolutely. I got 2 names to throw out there if you're really hurting at tight end. I like Cameron Braid. I think, with him being the only tight end in Tampa and them being gunslingers and want to throw it all the time, the potential is there. We saw
and he has red zone potential. Yeah,
right.
he's
and
decent.
The other one, Vernon Davis. Keep an eye on Jordan Reed. Because it seems like every time
I think they might just shut him down. They're out of contention. 4th string QB.
Down, Vernon Davis steps up and he's a tight end 1 again. So just
I don't think he probably won't be a tight end 1, but if you're in a deep like a 16-man league and need a tight end, he could be worth a speculative ad just because they got to throw to somebody and they don't really have any receivers either. Yeah, and he's a seasoned vet, so he could get open, helped out there. Whoever they're on now, somebody Johnson, their 4th string Josh Johnson. I think it's bad out there in Washington. The guy QBs, you go 2 broken legs and Mark Sanchez. What you want, a broken leg or a butt fumble? Take your pick. That's the situation there in Washington.
The butt fumble
it is ugly.
Mentally, but it doesn't hurt physically.
Yeah, poor Alex Smith, the man. Unfortunately, might not ever see the field again. Hoping he can. Keep him in our prayers, but man, it's just not looking good. Hate to see injuries like that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that'll probably wrap it up here for this little episode here. We touch on all the positions, and good luck to everyone in your fantasy playoffs. We're gonna keep things going here, though, Guru Nation. We never stop. We never quit grinding. Our apologies for not, doing weekly episodes, but I was really on the grind with the radio show. Was doing the weekly radio show. Josh was on the grind. We've just been doing our thing, but we're back here on YouTube tonight, or whenever you're watching the night today, or you can watch us whenever. We're available 24 hours a day. That's right. Whenever you want to put us on to get some fantasy advice, just feel free to tune in. Also on Instagram at Fantasy Guru, have a lot going on there. So make sure to check it out, y'all. We're doing big things here. They're trying to anyway. Just keep pushing and doing our thing. So good luck to y'all this week. in the fantasy playoffs. And we'll be back. See y'all later.